प्रेजेंटेड बाय ईबिक्स कैश, हर खुशी के लिए काफी है।
Hello and welcome. You're with us here on the Business Today show. I'm Abha Bakaya. Let's take you through the headlines. New owners say Jet Airways to fly again by next March, but will the takeoff be aborted by legal roadblocks? A good start to the trading week today, with the markets recovering smartly from opening lows. The Nifty finally settled marginally lower by 14 points at 17,355. The Sensex ended down 127 points at 58,178. August retail inflation eases to 5.3% from 5.59% in July. Food price inflation too eases to 3.11% versus 3.96% in July. RBI cautions against KYC updation fraud, says scammers using unsolicited messages and apps to skim account details and loot account holders. SpaceX set to take 4 tourists to orbit for 3 days on the 15th of September. Is this the beginning of real space tourism? Well, a good start to the trading week today. The markets recovering smartly from opening lows. The benchmark drifted lower in opening trade following weak global cues, but smartly recovered. The Nifty finally settling just marginally lower in trade, down about 14 odd points, and the Sensex also trending lower and ending just about flat after that recovery. Coal India was the biggest gainer, ending up about 4%. Reliance, on the other hand, was the biggest loser of the day, ending lower by about 50 odd points. And that's where it closed up, 2,371 on the exchange. The Nifty Metal Index, the best performing sector, up about 74 points there for the Metal Index today, or over 1%. So that was one pocket that was looking excited in trade. And Nifty Energy, however, was the worst performing sector of the day. That's how we saw the Nifty Energy Index close up in today's session. Let me also welcome in our global business editor, Udayan Mukherjee, to discuss some of the key talking points when it comes to the markets right now. And Udayan, while the indices were of course treading water somewhat, it's a certain stock I want to bring up today. Infosys has really been feeling the heat on account of those glitches when it comes to the IT portal. And while regulators have been trying to respond to certain comments and suggest that this is a technological error, it's being addressed, things are being done, processes are being followed, clearly the IT behemoth has not gotten away with this one easily. They've really taken a lot of flack.
Yes, it's a very unfortunate episode, Abha, and I'm glad to hear that the finance ministry is coming out and she's trying to redress it, because it needs to be redressed. There is just no business of any part of the government or the RSS to call Infosys anti-national. At best, they could have said that Infosys hasn't done a good job of the IT backbone and they need to redress it quickly. So they can be pulled up for not having done the job, but they cannot be called anti-national. This is just completely preposterous, and this is not the first instance, by the way, because just last month Piyush Goyal let out a tirade against the Tata Group about their criticism of the e-commerce rules. So it's certainly not the first time that this is happening. And I do think that the business community in India needs to stand up and speak out a little bit. I don't know why they keep cowering under some impression that there is the government can come down on them. Either there is an atmosphere of fear in this country, or they're particularly spineless as a lot. But I don't see the business community standing up for each other. You know, in America, when the storming of the Capitol happened, I mean, everybody came out, from Mark Zuckerberg to Jamie Dimon to Tim Cook to Sundar Pichai. Everybody came out and criticized Donald Trump in the harshest of language. In India, you don't hear a squeak other than from some Rahul Bajaj from one corner, maybe. But otherwise, businessmen don't stand up for their rights, and this is something which I have a great reservation against. I think this was an instance where the top business leaders of India should have stood up and defended Infosys and defended the Tata Group, because they should not be taking this kind of stuff from the government.
All right, Udayan, stay with us. We're going to come back to you in just a moment for that big interview with Raamdeo Agrawal today. But first, a look at some of the other big stories. Jet Airways could be flying again in just 6 months. The Jalan-Kalrock consortium, which had successfully bid for the airline, says the first flight would be between Delhi and Mumbai. The consortium has appointed Sudhir Gaur as the CEO and claims the process of reviving the grounded carrier is on track, with the existing air operator certificate under process for revalidation. Jet is also working to secure airport slots and other necessary infrastructure. Jet plans international flights by the end of next year and is targeting a fleet of 50 aircraft in 3 years and more than 100 aircraft in 5 years. The headquarters of the airline, earlier based in Mumbai, will be shifted to Delhi. However, it won't be smooth flying, with the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal set to hear Punjab National Bank's appeal against the consortium's rescue plan coming up on the 21st of September.
This is our market special, and our guest today on the show is a veteran of the market for many, many decades, Raamdeo Agrawal of Motilal Oswal. Raamdeo, it's good to speak to you again. You know, every investor that we speak to or we hear these days just seems so anxious. Why isn't a correction happening? The market is ahead of itself. The market has gone up so much, it will correct and fall almost immediately. How do you read this kind of anxiety that you're hearing from most investors today? How do you address such questions?
Yeah, very nice to talk to you then after a long time. You know, this question is coming loud and everybody is talking about that, and nobody knows these corrections, they will come, and it is that. So I'm kind of used to it, you know, these corrections and deep corrections also, I'm quite used to it. And that's part and parcel of life. I mean, any bull run or markets climbing from any level to any level, like in 2003, 2008, when it climbed from 5,000 to 20,000, you know, we had all these concerns on the way. And stories came out, and finally market picked out at 21,000. So I think we are in some kind of a climb, and how fast it goes, how far it goes. I mean, a lot of things depend, but these concerns will always remain. I mean, they were there very loud when index had fallen by 40% last year. And they were the same guys who were asking, why should we invest? This is a crazy market. It is down by 40%. And now it is up 100%. And still they ask the same question. So it is very, I mean, these things keep happening. I think one has to have faith in the stock market. One has to be ready for the 10-20% correction. And then the power of compounding of 15-17%. And then on top of it, if you are a good manager, then maybe you can make another 2-3%. So that's the kind of thinking I have. I'm reconciled to eventual corrections and power of compounding both.
But you've seen so many market cycles, Raamdeo. As we sit today, do you see any danger signs flashing, which tells you that something is happening in the market which one should be very cautious about? Any exuberance in terms of participation, any bubble-like valuations in pockets, IPO frenzy? Are there any signs which are telling you that something bad is going to happen, a big accident lies ahead? Are there any red signals flashing, or you think it's this normal caution that you hear about people or from people because they haven't seen a correction for a long time?
Yeah, see, there are 2-3 things happening which are very new to this market. One, we are coming out of COVID. This is a historical event. I mean, on the healthcare crisis, a lot of things are broken down. I think one of the things which has broken down is logistics. Global logistics are completely broken down. And the cost of logistics for many stuff, global logistic costs have gone higher than the kind of underlying profits or whatever. You know, if somebody is making 10% profit, the logistic cost has gone from 7% to 25%. So it has eaten away the entire profit. So these are crazy. I mean, things are breaking down one after other in many aspects. So we don't know, you know, what could happen to which company. And of course, when some companies suffer, some companies disproportionately benefit also. So the companies which are, say, inbound, the companies which are competing with the imported material, they are much better off today because they don't have the cheap imports coming into the country. So like polymers were coming in India very smoothly at certain price. Now the logistic cost of the polymers have like gone up by 15-20%. So the domestic guys can can increase the prices by that much. So, so the profits for these guys, they have changed. So there are so many things changing. I'm quite sure in this quarter result, you see some companies suffering big time, which are doing very well. And some companies will suddenly show huge profits, which they were not expected to make profits. So a lot of things have gone haywire in this period. And then on top of it, you have extremely loose monetary policy all over the world, coordinated. So cost of money is very low despite high inflation or whatever is the inflation. But the cost of money and the inflation has no correlation right now. And the quantum of money is literally unlimited. So these are the very, I have at least not seen so many, how do you handle so many variables at one time? Simultaneously working on the stock prices. So I'm trying to focus as much as possible on each and every company which I understand, which I like, and then go build up your portfolio like that, rather than taking a big call on what market can do in very short term.
Fair enough. But I was quite intrigued to see Zomato in your list of Motilal Oswal top 25. That means you have bought into that IPO, and that was interesting for me because I always saw you as an old-timer kind of an investment analyst who would buy the Marutis and Hero Hondas of the world. But clearly you've adopted the new age digital kind of technology companies as well. How do you go about valuing them, Raamdeo? I want to hear it from an old-timer like you.
Yeah. So I had exactly as expected by you, I had the struggle, and it was difficult for me to, I could see the excitement of digital businesses because I read few books, and then I said, let's look at it very, in a very unemotional way, in the sense that first saying that I don't understand and I can't understand, let's try to understand, because digital businesses have become seriously large in US and China, particularly these two places, and India is the next third place where it is going to be built. So I said, if we remain in what you call denial mode, we'll never learn. So then, with the help of team, we started looking at in somewhat different manner, and because the accounting of these digital companies are quite funny, in the sense that all the growth capex, they are built in the P&L, not in the balance sheet. If you build a cement company, your capex is coming in the balance sheet, not in the P&L. Whereas when Zomato or any digital company is building up client base and seriously large client base, that entire expenditure comes in the P&L, and hence that looks optically very, very loss making, but they are actually not loss making, in the sense that if you look at what they do, and if you kind of give some kind of, if you can remove the growth capex from the P&L, I think they are inherently profitable. Bulk of them are profitable, and that's how I try to. And then what we do is that okay, these businesses can scale up very rapidly to very large level, and they are asset light fundamentally. So the value of these companies can be large potentially, and we have seen actually when the Indian IT happened between 95 to 2000, when CNBC had just about started. At that point of time, we made a lot of money because that time model was very clear, in the sense that it was very profitable and it was coming through the P&L. But it was the value migration and the start of a completely new business, and the growth was massive. And we saw from less than 1,000 crores, Infosys climbing 1 lakh crore in 4 to 5 years. So that was a kind of a learning from where we started, and we said that this is the place, this is the opportunity where large businesses will build. Which one will be successful? How successful? We don't have that kind of a what I would say grip that okay, this company will become very big. But we know out of 10 companies, 2 or 3 of them will become seriously large. And I think in next say 5-10 years, even 10-15% or 20% of the total market cap will come from these companies. So keeping that in mind, I said let's start. This is simple business of deliveries. We understand the economics, and let me try to put some money over here, thinking that it is going to be a portfolio of companies rather than one company.
There could be bad news for the centre and states this upcoming festive season. Onion prices, the most potent political force in their own right, are threatening to rise again.
August end usually marks the exit of the monsoons, but this year has been an exception. The rains have been hyperactive, and while commuters in cities are battling the deluge, it's the farm plains across Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and several other states which are feeling the real pain. This is the Onion Mandi in Lasalgaon, about 60 kilometers from Nasik in Maharashtra. It's one of the biggest onion markets in the world. A month ago, the outlook for the festive season was good, with prices down due to lower demand and adequate supply from farmers. However, the unseasonal rainfall has instilled fear that the new crop, expected in a month's time, could be far below expectations.
ये लेट बारिश की वजह से हमारा ये नर्सरी तैयार नहीं हुआ और इस साल उस पे ज़्यादा असर पड़ेगा. नर्सरी तैयार ही नहीं हो पा रही.
There are reports that the transplantation of onion crops has taken a big hit due to unseasonal rains, which has also hurt the standing crops. The summer crop of onions accounts for around 30% of the annual harvest. According to rating agency CRISIL, the harvest is likely to be delayed, and onions consumed widely in Indian households are likely to make consumers cry again. While average wholesale onion prices in 2018 were around 1,450 rupees per 100 kilos, they zoomed to 3,500 rupees a year later. There was some softening last year, but prices may rise by an average 3% this year.
प्याज के जो दाम है वो पर केजी के लिए एवरेज रेट मिल रहा है किसानों को 12 रुपये से लेकर 14 रुपये तक, और लागत मूल्य 18 रुपये आता है. और इतने दिन से प्याज स्टोरेज करके रखा है. अप्रैल मई में किसानों ने स्टोरेज करके रखा है प्याज, और 4-5 महीने के बाद अगर यही दाम मिलेगा तो किसानों को घाटा ही घाटा होने वाला है. गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ इस पे ध्यान देना की ज़रूरत है.
Importantly, it's not only onion farmers who have been hit by the erratic monsoon rainfall. Crops like rice, cotton, soya-bean, which are normally sown during the monsoons, have also been affected. Their sowing had already been hit by a delayed monsoon. Now flooding has hit these crops. This is certain to have an impact on the budget of households already reeling under the impact of COVID lockdown. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Prices have eased further in August. According to figures released by the government, retail inflation was at 5.3% in August, lower than 5.59% in July, and considerably lower than 6.69% in August last year. This is the lowest increase in prices since April this year, when inflation was at 4.29%. Meanwhile, food prices rose at an average of 3.11% in August, a huge drop from 9.05% a year ago. Reserve Bank of India has issued a warning about scams involving alleged updates in Know Your Customer or KYC details. In a notice issued this evening, RBI has taken cognizance of people falling prey to fraudsters. According to the central bank, customers are receiving calls, messages and emails threatening them with account closure or other punitive action if they did not share the details of their accounts, logins or cards. Once the customers share these details, they are defrauded. RBI has asked all to confirm the call with their bank branch. The Reserve Bank has also clarified that the process of KYC updation has been simplified, and that, as notified earlier, no action will be taken against any account till 31st December. The Supreme Court on Monday said the 330-day deadline for deciding on bankruptcy and insolvency matters must be adhered to strictly. The Apex Court said the NCLT and the Appellate Tribunal, the NCLAT, must keep in mind the sanctity of the deadline that's set in law. A Supreme Court bench headed by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud said that the earlier bankruptcy law had failed mainly due to long delays in litigation and promised that the present IBC will not be allowed to meet the same fate. 4 tourists will take off on a space journey on board a SpaceX rocket this Wednesday. The mission will put the tourists in orbit where they will circle the Earth for 3 days, very different from the mission led by Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos earlier this year. Both were part of suborbital launches which just lasted a few hours. The mission has been sponsored by billionaire Jared Isaacman, who is one of the passengers in Crew Capsule Inspiration 4. Others include a physician assistant, a data engineer, and a geoscientist. None of them have any formal astronaut training, and it's for this reason the flight is being called an all-civilian space mission. The rocket and the crew capsule are fully automated and can only be controlled from the Earth Space Center. That's all the time we have for you today on the show. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.